Namaskar. In my childhood, I visited a place in Gaya, near to Gaya. This place is called Barbara Cave. Barbara Cave is supposed to be the oldest standing curved cave, stone curved cave in India, and it had four caves, a set of four caves, around 24 kilometers from Gaya. So when I visited, I was being told that this cave is a Buddhist cave, and it had inscriptions, very finely finished cave in a particular style. You can read about Barbara Cave in internet. Interestingly, nobody told me that it was actually not made by the Buddhists. In my teenage, when I was studying further and then a little bit interested in history, I understood that these caves were basically the caves or the religious space for a different doctrine or a different school of thought called Ajivikas. So Barbara caves were not a Buddhist caves. It was a cave initially built by Ajivikas or for Ajivikas. When I heard about Ajivika, I started understanding what is this doctrine or school of thought. Ajivikas being in India, almost in the similar time zone of Vedic, Jain and Buddhist doctrines. So in 6th, 5th and 4th century, there have been a very strong contestant to become the dominant religion in India. Now, Ajivikas have no presence in this land, and the last presence of Ajivika was found in 14th of century. We'll come back to it maybe a bit later, but what I wanted to tell you is that it's interesting to note that there were religions in India which ultimately vanished from this land, and not only vanished, their whole scripture or the documents, and nothing is being found or nothing being kept as such. Ajivikas were at their peak during the time of Mauryan king Bindusara, and after that it started falling because Ashoka became Buddhist. And then there were a lot of restrictions, and everybody was being channeled to become Buddhist at Mauryan period of time. So Ajivika's religious places being taken over or being burned down, and multiple other activities happened as such. But what are these Ajivikas, and what is philosophy of Ajivikas, and why it is being so fearing to other religion? So to understand Ajivika, let's understand the word Ajivika. It starts from Jivika or Jiva, which means life or livelihood. So Ajivika's concept was very interesting. They said that the whole life is being ruled or controlled by Niyati. Niyati means fate. No, I know that you must be saying, oh, Niyati is also there in Hindu religion. So if you understand that all these basic concepts were actually being built by Ajivikas, and later on being adopted by multiple other religions, including Hinduism, Buddhism and all of them, Jainism, all of them. So one of the major concepts of Ajivikas were Niyati, that your life is controlled by your Niyati or fate or Bhagya, and you cannot change it. They never believed in God. They were astics, they were nastikas as such, and what they basically thought of, their ideology or beliefs were basically that you cannot come out with these particular life cycle of living, death and living, and there is no better life if you do a better karma. So they were against the whole concept of karma, which leads Hinduism, which basically is the core concept of Hinduism. They were basically an idealist, believing in something called Anu and Paramanu. This particular thought of Anu and Paramanu came from Vaisheshika. It's again another school of thought. So Ajivikas also believed that the body of any living being, in fact any being in this world, are made in Anu and Paramanu, the smallest particle, and by arranging these Anus and Paramanus, different types of beings are being placed in this world, including human being. So that was the concept of them. They lived a very simple life, a very basic simple life, and that was also their ideology. The mention of Ajivika, since the books and scriptures are all gone, the mention of Ajivikas are there in Jain's documents like Bhagavati Sutta, or the Buddhist documents like Samanapala Sutta. But interestingly, when you talk about all these mentions are basically to say that Ajivikas were, the thought of Ajivikas were not that strong, or it's basically a view of contestants about other contestant, so that's how it's being built. And maybe it's a biased view, maybe it's a partially truthful ideology. So actually we don't know much about Ajivika's ideologies or beliefs at this time, other than understanding that they were non-believers of gods or karmic being. They were believers of Niyati. So when we try to understand how these were built and where it went, so the idea says that, or the concept says that the Ajivikas were there from 6th century BCE, and they almost vanished by 3rd and 4th century. However, the whole ideology or school of thought of Ajivikas moved from from eastern India to southern India, and in southern India it was present, especially in Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. Ajivika were present for till 14th century. So a religion which basically generates from eastern of India moves to southern India, and it stays for almost till 14th century. I don't know how after 14th century it was gone off, but it was still practiced till 14th century. One of the major name from Ajivikas being founders and being thought leader is Makal Gosala. Makali Gosala is basically being told that he is a contemporary to Buddha and Jain, Jain followers. They have been there for multiple time confrontation. They have a confrontation on their thought. And Makal Gosala, the name Gosala came because he was born in a cowshed, and from Gaushala the word Goshala comes in. However, in another set of documents, it's being told that Makal Gosala is not the first one in Ajivika's doctrine. He is the 8th teacher of the doctrine. So there might be 7 more teachers. So maybe before Makal Gosala took over Ajivikas, there were actually 7 more teachers. So it might be a 1 more century old, so 100 years old religion before Makal Gosala joined in this particular doctrine. They were believers of simple life, very simple life. You might be thinking that if they are believers in Niyati, they might be doing all the sorts of things, thinking that anyway God has made us meant to do all this stuff, so we can do anything. No, they were not being done. They were very simple in their lifestyles. And let me show you a picture of a practitioner of that particular religion or a school of thought, and then you will understand how simple they used to look like. So this is one of the Ajivikas. In one of the Buddhist culture, this was shown, and you can see that they were almost not wearing any clothes. And that particular concept of not wearing clothes to remain and be in a simple life is being also followed in Jainism. And in Jainism also, if you remember, Jainism is also influenced by the concept of non-existence of God, but different avatars who comes at different times, Mahaviras, everybody. So if you see that, it's very interesting that how Ajivika's concepts and core concepts being taken by multiple religion and being instituted in their system. For example, if you remember Buddhism, there is a very famous story of Buddha where one lady comes to Buddha and says that, can you bring back the life of my son? So Buddha says that you bring one piece of a rice from any of the houses where nobody died ever. And the lady tries and then she could not find it. Then Buddha says that, see, it is our life where living and dying is part of a system or a rule and you cannot change it. So that is again a doctrine which comes from Ajivikas, because they have not believed in afterlife, they have not believed in heaven, they have not believed in all those concepts, and they say that our life cycle of living, dying and living is basically a cyclic order which is run by the niyati or the fate, and you cannot change it. So these kind of multiple smaller ideologies being taken and being incorporated in multiple major religions like Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism as such. So I will suggest you to read more about Ajivikas, because that's one very interesting religion and a thought. You can read about it in internet, you can read about in multiple books. Let me refer a few books to you. One of these books is called as the Ajivikas, a short history of their religion and philosophy by Mr. B.M. Barua, and a book called A History of Pre-Buddhistic Indian Philosophy. Also another book by Mr. A.L. Bashmin, and he writes The History and Doctrines of Ajivikas, a Vanished Indian Religion. I will always suggest you to read a book rather than reading and watching videos, because books are very authentic and you can get a lot of information from them. You can get back to me with information. If you are somewhere near to Gaya and you are visiting, or you are visiting Bihar, do visit Barabar Cave, and you will understand how beautifully it was constructed. My name is Sengupta. Listen and go through my videos. If you have any questions or doubts, put it on comment or get back to me. Thank you. Namaskar.